All right, I want to take a moment to go back to the developing story we're tracking here on WION World is One. The US, backed by the UK and France, has stepped up efforts for the United Nations Security Council to blacklist Masood Azhar, the chief of Jaish-e-Mohammed terrorist group. This after China prevented the move 2 weeks ago. The US, along with British and French support, has introduced a resolution with the 15-member UN Security Council that would subject Masood Azhar to an arms embargo, travel ban and an assets freeze. The US has bypassed the 1267 committee to put Masood Azhar on the UN terror list. There will be a public vote. This resolution would only require 9 votes in favor and no vetoes by China, Russia, the US, France or the UK to pass. Now, there's no information yet on when this draft resolution would be put to a vote. And joining me for more in this developing story is former Indian diplomat Vivek Karju. Ambassador Karju, thank you for joining us on WION World is One this morning. First up, your initial reaction to this move by the US to put China in a corner and force the matter of Masood Azhar's proscription to a public vote. Your thoughts, Ambassador Karju?
I think this is a very significant development because as far as I can recollect, this is the very first time that such a move is being made. You rightly said it is to spotlight China's actions on Masood Azhar and expose it. And China in the past has never wanted to be isolated. So on this issue, the question now is whether it is willing to stand alone and stand by Pakistan to such an extent that it vetoes this resolution. I think the Chinese may be inclined to do so because under President Xi Jinping, they have shed the inhibitions of the past to stand alone. But it is a very difficult call for them, and the Western countries, France, the UK and the US, are clearly putting it on notice that it cannot anymore run with the hare and chase with the hounds.
Indeed, Ambassador Karju, just for the benefit of viewers who might not be familiar with how the UNSC functions in particular, what would a public vote entail? As you mentioned, is it to send this message across to China that you can't run with the hare and hunt with the hounds, to name and shame really?
Well, yes, because a public vote means that the President of the Security Council will put the resolution or put the proposition to a vote, and then he will ask which are the countries supporting it, who are the countries abstaining, and who are the countries that are rejecting it. Now, if China abstains, the resolution or the proposition will pass. The 5 permanent members, that is the US, Russia, the UK, the France and China, have veto powers, which means that by themselves, one of these countries can exercise a veto, thereby preventing a resolution from being adopted by the Security Council. So this is a test for China, and it now remains to be seen. As I said, they've shed the... they didn't want to be isolated in the past. You'll recollect that when the question of the NSG exemption had come up in 2008, then the US and other countries had stood by India and had really isolated China. And China then gave in. But that was the China of more than 10 years ago. The Chinese today have a greater sense of their presence. And furthermore, after the CPEC, the China-Pakistan Economic Corridor, their stakes in Pakistan have risen considerably. So now, in a sense, the nexus that there is between China and Pakistan is also being exposed. If I recollect correctly, I think I read a couple of days ago, perhaps this morning, that the US Secretary of State has said that the Chinese can't apply double standards when it comes to terrorism.
Indeed.
That is, confronting them, they adopt one standard, and then when it comes to terrorism emanating from Pakistan, like the Masood Azhar case, they adopted another standard which is purely technical and therefore not tenable. This
Indeed.
can't
Ambassador Kharge,
continue.
do hold your thought. I want to tell our viewers about what you're exactly referring to now. The US Foreign Minister Mike Pompeo has hit out at China for its hypocrisy, for its double standards, and Ambassador Kharge was mentioning, towards Muslims. And if I can quote Mike Pompeo, he says, apparently referring to China's blocking a proposal to designate Jaish-e-Mohammed chief Masood Azhar as a global terrorist, Mike Pompeo tweeted, and I quote, "The world cannot afford China's shameful hypocrisy towards Muslims. On one hand, China abuses more than 1 million Muslims at home, but on the other, it protects violent Islamic terrorist groups from sanctions at the UN," end quote. So that's a very strong statement, Ambassador Kharge, coming in from Mike Pompeo in the context of China's hypocrisy, double standards, double speak on the issue of terrorism.
No, you are right, and I think if you permit, your viewers should also know that what Mike Pompeo is hinting is the kind of re-education camps, as the Chinese call, for Uyghur Muslims, where there are reports that they are forcing Muslims even to eat pork, and that there are minders. So in a sense, they are wanting their own Muslims to go against basic Islamic traditions and customs and the tenets of Islam, the rituals that people who follow the Islamic faith observe. And on the other hand, when it comes to a terrorist who claims to act in the name of Islam, they'll give it a pass. So this is what Pompeo is hinting at. Also, the Chinese have always claimed that Uyghur Muslim terrorist groups are there, and that the international community, including India, should take strict action against them. They also want that we should not allow Uyghur leaders who live outside China to even visit India. And on the other hand, when it comes to the question of Masood Azhar, they raise all kinds of technical issues in the context of the 1267 committee. Now, this has gone on for far too long. One other word, I think it's been somewhat courageous of the West, of the US, etc., of the US, France, and the UK, to put this question to the Security Council. So I think diplomatically, this is a very significant move at the moment.
Indeed, significant move, says Ambassador Kharge. But just a very quick follow-up question, Ambassador Kharge. And correct me if I'm wrong, this is a non-binding resolution, so it might not immediately impact or influence the actual process or effort to proscribe Masood Azhar by the 1267 committee going forward. So China at the moment has put a technical hold on that move. So how will this public vote impact on China's attitude or behavior going forward? Will it relent or not?
Well, the Chinese can't really say that they will let this resolution pass, but maintain their maintain their hold on Masood Azhar's listing under the 1267 committee. There has to be a compatibility in their action. And therefore, even though this is non-binding, because it is under the 1267 resolution that entities and individuals are listed and then sanctioned. So even if it is non-binding, its significance, diplomatic significance, is very much there.
All right, on that note, Ambassador Kharge, thank you so much for your valuable inputs and insights into this developing story here.